Hello, my name is Kathleen Chiras, and today's exclusive interview features one of the top buyer agents of Buyer Agent Search out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Sue Foll. Sue has been with Buyer Agent Search since 2003 and has an extensive realtor experience of more than 30 years. Her expertise has gained excellent reviews from her buyers. She has been consistently rated as a 10 plus broker in our system, which basically means she has always exceeded her buyers' expectations. She also does listings, but we're focusing on her buyer expertise in this particular video. To best represent her clients in the real estate transaction, Sue has secured the following certifications and designations. These are all great ones to have. Accredited buyer representative, certified residential specialist, graduate realtor institute, the At Home with Diversity certification, and she's also a senior real estate specialist. Good afternoon, Sue. It is a pleasure to have you here with us on our exclusive interview. So just quickly introduce yourself to our viewers and share your biggest motivation for becoming a buyer's agent.
Hi, Kathleen. Thank you so much. My name is Sue. I am actually passionate about real estate. I truly am. My whole desire is to help my buyers and, as you mentioned, sellers, but to help my clients achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. And I want them to achieve it in the best manner possible. And if it's a buyer, to get it at the best possible price. And if it's a seller, to make the most possible money out of the sale of their home. But, and my slogan is driven to succeed. So I am very driven.
So that sounds like an awesome philosophy of working with clients. Can you tell us something interesting or unique about living and working in Indianapolis, Indiana?
Indianapolis is a very interesting place. I'm sure everybody has heard about the Indianapolis 500, and I love the Indy 500 myself. But we also have other races at the track, but it's a focal point in May. Everybody hears about the Indy 500. But we also have great other features around Indianapolis. In downtown, we've got the Canal Walk, which is really cool. We also have White River, which runs through the city. People, even though we're not on an ocean, people love to boat and just be around water, in it, on it, next to it, whatever. We have some famous areas in downtown Indy. Massachusetts Avenue has some very nice condominiums as well as really cool restaurants. But we refer to it as Mass Ave. We have the Indianapolis Museum. We have lots of art galleries and museums throughout the city. We have, I think it's referred to as a world-renowned children's museum, which I love to go to with my grandkids because it's really fun. We have lots of theater and symphonies, but not only Indianapolis, Hamilton County, which is on the north side of Indy. Indy is located in Marion County, but Hamilton County is our neighbor to the north. This is a huge growing area, and I have buyers that come in all the time that have heard about Hamilton County and they want to know more about it. Carmel has been a city in Hamilton County for many, many, many years. And I would say it would be more for the affluent, but it has the coolest downtown area. They have their own symphony. They have a great place for their symphony. It's called the Palladium. Just first class all the way. Then to the east of Carmel, we have Fishers, which is a fairly new city, but it is growing by leaps and bounds. And then on the west side of Carmel, we have Zionsville and Westfield. But in Westfield, it's famous for Grand Park. Grand Park is the largest soccer and baseball event plaza, I would guess you could call it, in the United States because they have so many soccer fields and so many baseball fields, and they are adding on in 2020. But before Grand Park, Westfield was just a sleepy little town, and in the last 4 years, it has exploded. I also forgot to mention, we have 3 reservoirs. So if you're a boater, or you like to be on water, or you want to fish, whatever, we've got these 3 great reservoirs all around the city of Indianapolis.
Well, it sounds like you have an extensive knowledge of the area, Sue. And I think on this next question, I also want you to mention how many different counties you cover, because you're able to provide buyers with a wide diversity of areas, and I'm sure you know a lot of the neighborhoods inside out. So could you please tell us what a typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath home might cost in this area of Indiana?
Okay, it is going to be very diverse because, like I mentioned, Carmel's, I would call it a much more affluent area. Probably a median price in Carmel is going to be around $247. And if we go to Fishers, it's probably going to be a little bit over $200. If we go to the northwest side of Indianapolis, we're probably looking just under $200,000, and on the northeast side, just about a little over $200,000. Now, on the south side, prices are lower. I don't know why that is, but prices tend to be lower. I actually service 16 counties, which are around central Indiana. Brownsburg and Avon are 2 towns or cities on the west side of Indy. They both have great school systems, and their prices are like all over the board, but they're not quite as high as like Carmel.
Great. Well, that sounds like you have an extensive knowledge of the area. So if I were an out-of-state buyer, I say, wow, you know, this is an affordable place to live. It's a good place to work. Indiana actually has some pretty good attributes to it. What would you advise me to prepare for a move to the Indianapolis, Indiana area?
Well, the first thing I want to do when I have a buyer relocating here, I want to talk to them in person on the phone. And I want to find out exactly what they would like in a home. And if they've heard about areas of Indy, I want to know which areas those are, which areas they think they might want to live in. But sometimes once they get here, they change their mind. But according to what they've told me, I will send them information and links to those particular areas. And then, of course, if they want more information, I'm going to provide it for them because I want them to be as well informed as they can be. And then I also want to set up a search in the multi-list for them because I want them to see what a certain price range will get for them in certain areas of the area where they want to live. It's just really important because of their location and amenities. Your price points are going to be different.
Sue, can you tell me what would be a recent experience of what you have done to help a buyer purchase their home? Can you just, share with the audience here one that sort of stands out to you?
Well, I had a real interesting one last year. I had a buyer and her fiance come in from Washington, D.C. They were only here for 30 hours to buy a house. And it was a whirlwind. And we went from one side of Indy all across the top of Indy into Brownsburg, which is on the west side. They had to make a decision in that time period. So I got them about 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and they flew out. Well, we went to bed, of course, but I think they flew out about 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon. Then we chatted after that, and they made an offer on a property. It turned out after inspections, which I attended in their behalf, that house just wasn't the right fit for them. I got them out of that contract. We got their earnest money returned, and then I got her for another 6 hours later in the month of May. And we found new construction, which this house that we found, which ultimately they purchased, was a similar house to one that we had looked at the very first few hours they were in town, but it was too soon for them to make a decision, and an offer had come in on it. But they ended up getting the same floor plan, but it was just brand new construction.
That sounds like an awesome example of helping someone, a good buyer who doesn't really know the area, and you are able to guide them through various offers and situations so that they could get the perfect house for them. So let me ask you a final question here, Sue, which is one that every buyer should ask of their agent. And that is, as a buyer's agent, what do you do to protect your clients when they're planning to buy real estate?
Well, I try to start out the process when we're looking at property. I point out what could be possible items that would show up on an inspection report. And I try to point out some things that might be more on the major side, and then things that are just kind of incidental that really are not a big deal. I want them to understand the difference between major defects and just really minor items. In the purchase agreements that we use in the state of Indiana, they are the Indiana state forms. There is a section that refers to the inspections, and I always encourage my buyers to have inspections. In fact, if they don't want to do an inspection, I make them sign a disclosure saying that they chose not to do one, because I strongly believe in inspections. But after the purchase agreement is accepted, we then go through the inspection process. My buyer usually receives the inspection report the day of the inspection. I encourage them to read through it. We talk, if we are not in the same state or in the same city, we talk on the phone. I tell them to pull out the summary page and let's go through the report page by page, but I want you to look at the summary items because these are the items that are major or safety defects. If they see other things that are really of a concern to them, we can talk about them and decide whether that should be on our response to inspections. We then submit, well, I fill out the response to inspections, and then we submit it to the seller's agent, and then ultimately to the seller. Plus, I provide the entire report because I want them to know what we saw and what the inspector found. The seller then responds back to the buyer. And, we may go back and forth, or we may not be able to come to a meeting of the minds. And if that's what happens, then I submit a response for a mutual release and get my buyer's earnest money back. But I want to be sure that the buyer is totally comfortable. But I feel it's important to set expectations from the very beginning.
Well, it sounds like you take very good care of your clients, and we at Buyer Agent Search do happen to know that for the last 17 years, all we get are positive reviews from you or about you. And we see consistently they are always advocating in the best interests of your clients, providing them a professional and very good experience in terms of buying a house